Hello everyone and welcome to Youth Online. It's great to have you with us today. Do comment along and say hi so we know who's watching. We are on our final week of our series Life Hacks and we've learnt loads over the last few weeks. You can check out any weeks that you've missed on YouTube, but as a quick review, week 1 we talked about our identity, and instead of asking who I am, we should be asking whose am I. Week 2 we talked about our emotions and to remember the difference between feelings and truth. And last week we talked about our friends and our family and how we need to be the type of friend and family member we would like others to be to us. And this week we're going to be talking about wise choices. But before we jump into our message for today, we have a little quiz for you all. A chance for you to win a prize. Now today it's all about the Bible, so type along in the comments and I'll announce the winner at the end via the chat. Question number 1. How many books are there in the Bible? Are there A, 57, B, 67, C, 66, or D, 2? Now, how many books are there in the Bible? 57, 67, 66, or 2? Question number 2. Who wrote most of the books in the New Testament? Was it A, Matthew, B, Mark, C, Paul, or D, John? That's who wrote most of the books in the New Testament. Was it Matthew, Mark, Paul, or John? Question number 3. How many disciples did Jesus have? A, 11, B, 6, C, 12, or D, 10? That was how many disciples did Jesus have? 11, 6, 12, or 10? Question number 4. Which disciple betrayed Jesus? Was it Simon Peter? Was it John? Was it Judas Iscariot, or was it James? So which of the disciples betrayed Jesus? A, Simon Peter, B, John, C, Judas Iscariot, or D, James? Question number 5. Where was Jesus baptized? Was it A, the Sea of Galilee, B, the Dead Sea, C, the Jordan River, or D, the Red Sea? So where was Jesus baptized? The Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, the Jordan River, or the Red Sea? Question number 6. How many days passed between Jesus' death and then resurrection? Was it A, 3, B, 2, C, 40, or D, 7? That's how many days passed between Jesus' death and resurrection? Was it A, 3, B, 2, C, 40, or D, 7? Question number 7. What was the sign that Jesus' betrayer used to reveal him to the guards? Was it A, a bow, B, a salute, C, a kiss, or D, an embrace? So what was the sign that Jesus' betrayer used to reveal him to the guards? A, a bow, B, a salute, C, a kiss, or D, an embrace? And question number 8. Who was the first person to see Jesus after his resurrection? Was it A, Timothy, B, Mary, C, Peter, or D, Lazarus? Who was the first person to see Jesus after his resurrection? Timothy, Mary, Peter, or Lazarus? Okay, those are the 8 questions, so keep an eye on the comments and I'll tell you who the winner is. But well done to those who took part. Sam did win the last 2 weeks, so I really hope that one of you beat him this time. Now, we're going to be sharing with you our final life hacks, and Jack was great and we recorded these earlier in the week, so do check these out.
Isn't it the worst when you get animal hair all over your nice clean clothes? Here's a life hack for you. Get some sellotape, sticky side up, and wrap it around your hand and then pat it off gently on your shirt or trousers to get the hairs off. Here's another life hack for you to reduce washing up in your home. Open your tin of baked beans and put it in the oven for half an hour, and then it's ready to eat with no washing up. Have you ever been to the airport and struggled to find your suitcase? Here's a good life hack for you. Get some ribbon and tie it around your suitcase so you know it's yours.
Thank you so much, Jack, for sharing those life hacks with us. Today in our message, we are going to be talking about wise choices. Sometimes I think it would be nice in life if there was a reset button. There are so many times in my life when I've not made wise choices, like when I pretend I know the way when we're driving and I actually have no idea. We take loads of wrong turns and get lost. Or the time when I thought I didn't need to check the photo in my passport and I actually took my brother's passport to the airport, meaning I missed 3 days of the mission trip. That was not a wise choice. There are some decisions in life that are easy. For example, if you give me chocolate dessert or fruit salad, easy, I will pick chocolate every time. Chips or pizza, I will go for pizza. Adventure holiday or cruise ship, I will always pick the adventure. You may not agree with me, and that's okay, because these are just opinion decisions. They're not the choices of right or wrong, no matter how strong our opinions are. But from what I remember about my high school life and from what I know about your high school life, there is an increasing number of decisions to be made, and they only seem to get more complicated and more difficult to make. You're deciding which lessons to take, who you want as your friends, what extracurricular activities you want to partake in, which video games to play and how much, and about a million other decisions. The tricky thing here is that the Bible doesn't give us specific instructions when it comes to lessons, extracurricular activities, video games, social media. However, before you check out and decide this is a waste of time, I believe that Jesus made wise choices. And although he doesn't show us specifics on how to make decisions related to the subjects we listed earlier, he does give us some great principles for how to be wise in life. Let's zoom in and focus on one specific teaching Jesus has that will help us this week with using wisdom and making decisions. So look with me at the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 24 to 27. Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. Though the rain comes in torrents and the floodwaters rise, the wind beats against that house, it won't collapse because it's built on bedrock. But anyone who hears my teaching and doesn't obey it is foolish, like a person who builds a house on sand. When the rains and floods come and the winds beat against that house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. Now, before you all get caught up in the house stories, look at the first few words Jesus said. Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise. If you've been around church much at all, you've heard the teachings and the stories of Jesus. In fact, lots of people, both inside and outside of the church, know at least some of what Jesus said, taught, and did. The problem is that there are so many fewer people who follow Jesus than there are people who have heard it. Think about it. Hundreds of people in communities like yours around the country go to church, or read the Bible, or check out sermons online every week. But unless you notice something we're not seeing, we don't see hundreds of people following those teachings and living like Jesus with their families, neighbours, schoolmates and co-workers. And that is Jesus' key point in his teaching here. It's not enough to hear or read what Jesus teaches. We need to pay attention to Jesus and we need to follow his instructions and examples. We're supposed to follow those instructions and actually do what he says. With all the decisions that you have been and will continue facing, the best advice we can give to you is to pay attention to Jesus and then follow his instructions and example. If that's all Jesus was basically telling us, then what's the point in the story of the houses? Well, let's look at those briefly. Jesus said, you are wise when you follow his teaching, like someone who builds a house on solid ground. Then he says, you're foolish if you hear his teachings and do not follow them, like someone who builds a house on sand. This isn't so much about real estate location as it is about the foundation itself. Both houses had to deal with horrible rain, floodwaters, and wind. Sometimes we miss that. There are people who want you to believe that if you follow Jesus, everything's going to be good and your decisions will be easy. But if you ever hear that or are taught that, then that person has not necessarily read the 4 books about Jesus, nor understood the truths about what it looks like to follow Jesus. Jesus himself faced persecution and hard times. His followers from the early church days, soon after his death, all the way to the current day, face persecution and hardship simply because they are followers of Jesus. So unfortunately, you are going to face hard times and difficult decisions whether you follow Jesus or not. But if you follow Jesus' instructions and example, you will be wise and be able to use that wisdom in making decisions. So what can that mean in the next, 7 days? When Jesus is asked what is the most important commandment for us to follow, he responded and he said, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbour as yourself." So this week, don't just know Jesus said that. Imagine what life would look like if we were able to truly live like Jesus. We would be known for loving people just like Jesus was. We would be known for caring for the vulnerable. We would be known for being generous with our money, generous with our time. Wouldn't it be amazing if we were able to live like Jesus, always being the peacemaker in our family, being courageous, fighting for justice in your schools, in your family, and in your world? We would be known for being present, for listening to people, not constantly checking our phones. Imagine how your world could change if we truly started to live like Jesus. And the big challenge for this week is to do something that Jesus would have done. When I was growing up, I went to a Christian shop, or if I went to Sizewell where I went to Christian camp, we would go into the shop and find these wristbands. WWJD, what would Jesus do? I used to wear one all the time as a reminder to me. I'm not saying you all need to go and buy these, but find ways to remind yourself in your day to live like Jesus. It might be a screensaver on your phone, a bracelet, an alarm that you set up to go off in the day. But do something about it. What if you were to read, pray, and do? We started a reading plan last week. Have you been reading with us on the YouVersion app? If not, why don't you start now? Search for the reading plan life hacks on YouVersion and it will look a little bit like this. Then take some time to pray, asking God to not only help you understand what you're reading, but also to see what you need to do to act on what you have read to follow the instructions. And then go and do it. How different could our families, friends, schools, and neighbourhoods be if all of us spent the next 7 days reading the Bible and actually doing what it says to do? If you do that, it could be one very important decision that will end up helping you develop some really good habits. And those habits will grow wisdom in your life, helping you with a lifetime of decision making. Let me pray for us. Dear God, thank you for the amazing example that you have set for us. Thank you that we can turn to you to help us to make wise choices in our lives. Please help us all this week to focus on living more like you and showing love to all that we meet. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us again today. It's been great hanging out here on YouTube. Do stick around and share in the comments something that's made you smile today. What can you do in the day to remind yourself to live like Jesus? And how can we be praying for you? Take care and we'll see you soon.